If you would please stand, we're going to go over to John chapter 18, where we'll read in verses 1 through 9. John chapter 18, verses 1 through 9. It says there, when Jesus had finished praying, Jesus left with his disciples and crossed the Kidron Valley. And on the other side there was a garden, and he and his disciples went into it. Now Judas, who betrayed him, knew the place because Jesus had often met there with his disciples. So Judas came to the garden, guiding a detachment of soldiers and some officials from the chief priests and the Pharisees. They were carrying torches and lanterns and weapons. Jesus, knowing all that was going to happen to him, went out and asked them, "Who is it you want?" "Jesus of Nazareth," they replied. "I am he," Jesus said, and Judas the traitor was standing there with them. When Jesus said, "I am he," they drew back and fell to the ground. Again he asked them, "Who is it you want?" "Jesus of Nazareth," they said. And Jesus answered, "I told you that I am he. If you're looking for me, then let these men go." This happened so that the words he had spoken would be fulfilled. "I have not lost one of those you gave me." You may be seated. Jesus meeting with his apostles there in the garden. He had gone there to pray, gone there to get close to his heavenly Father. He wanted his men with him. He wanted their presence. He wanted their comfort. And along comes Judas with around 300 soldiers, some religious leaders. They came to take Jesus away. They came to arrest him and his men. You see, these religious leaders were not just interested in Jesus, but anyone who was following Jesus. They were after the men that had served Jesus, followed him, given up their lives for him. They wanted them as well. They weren't just satisfied with arresting Jesus. They wanted to arrest all of them and make a spectacle of all of them. To make a statement that anyone who worships this God, this Jesus, will be put to death. They were out to stop a revival, a spiritual revival that was taking place. And so they come with 300 Roman soldiers to arrest Jesus and 11 apostles. They must have known something about this man Jesus to bring so many soldiers with them. They had heard of these great miracles, and many had witnessed the power of Jesus. They heard about the raising of Lazarus. The woman who had been bleeding, they heard about how she was miraculously healed when she touched Jesus' robe. How the lepers were healed. They knew that this Jesus had power, great power. They just didn't know how great a power he had. And Jesus standing there, he looks at all of them and he says, "Who are you looking for?" They said, "Jesus of Nazareth." "I am he." And it says in the scriptures that they fell to the ground when he said, "I am he." What was it that made them fall to the ground? Why was it that they could not stand before this Jesus of Nazareth? That Jesus of Nazareth displayed his power, his splendor, his glory right there in their presence. That name that is above every name, that name upon which all men, women, and children must call upon in order to be saved. That name, in that name there is power to humble the enemy, to bring the enemy to his knees. Jesus came to defend, He came to protect, He came to deliver God's people. And that's a mission, that's a name, that's a goal that Jesus is going to reach. Aside from the workers of iniquity, aside from Satan and his demonic spirits, Jesus is going to defend, He's going to deliver, He's going to protect us. And He will not lose one of us. Not one of us will be lost. In Jeremiah 22:16, it says this, He defended the cause of the poor and needy, and so all went well. Is that not what it means to know me, declares the Lord? He says, I am a deliverer, I am a defender, I am a protector. I will defend the poor and protect the needy. I will provide for my people. I will go up against the enemy. You see, Jesus didn't have His apostles stand in front of Him. No, He stood in front of them. 1 against 300 plus. Jesus was not afraid. What you learn from this is that Jesus goes before you. Before that enemy even approaches, Jesus is standing in front of you, between you and that enemy, between you and that force. Jesus is standing between you and that obstacle in your way. He says, let me take care of this. I got this. Stand back and see the power of the Lord. Can you imagine what it must have looked like here, standing there with Jesus, and here comes these 300 plus people with spears and javelins and shields ready for battle, and then all of a sudden they all fall to their knees because of the name of Jesus? We can learn something from this. Before we go into battle, say the name Jesus Christ. Call upon that name before you go into battle, before you go into an interview, before you go into a situation in which you know there's danger, there's hardship, there's pain, there's suffering. Go in there claiming the name of Jesus. Wave His banner above you. A reminder to you that the one who goes before you is the one who hung the stars in the heavens and gave each one a name. He's the one who parted the Red Sea. He's the one who shut the mouths of the lions, who protected Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego from the fiery furnace. He goes before you. He encounters the forces of evil before you do. He stands between you and your enemy. And He's already determined the outcome: to defend, to protect, and to deliver. That's what a good father does. A good father stands between the forces of evil and his children. He doesn't send his children out in front of him. No, a good father stands and defends and protects and delivers. That's what a good father does. That's what our Father in heaven does. And that's what He's showing us here in the Scriptures. He defended His servants. In Jeremiah 51:36, therefore this is what the Lord says, see, I will defend your cause and avenge you. He says, I'm going to do this for you because I love you. Because you're the apple of my eye. Because I call you by name. Because you believe in me, because you worship me, because you bow down before me, because I am good. I am loving, I'm kind, I'm compassionate, I'm forgiving, I'm long-suffering. I'm going to do this for you. Because I am yours and you are mine, and that's the bottom line. I'm a good and perfect Father. Take comfort in knowing that I go before you. Martin Luther, in his song, A Mighty Fortress, goes on to say, and though this world with devils filled should threaten to undo us, we will not fear, for God has willed His truth to triumph through us. When you call on that name of truth, you will triumph. Victory comes in the name of Jesus. The truth will set you free from whatever it is that comes your way. The truth will deliver you. The truth will defend you. The truth will protect you. Jesus came to defend. He stood there defending His men, His servants, those who had put their trust in Him. And Jesus is saying to you and me today, I'll do the same for you. I'll do the very same thing. I will stand between you and the forces against you. I'll stand between you and Satan. I'll stand between you and his demonic forces. I'll stand between you and those people in this world that are working according to Satan's will. I will stand and I will defend you. But He also says that I will protect you as well. In Psalm 12:7, it says this, You, Lord, will keep the needy safe and will protect us forever from the wicked. Wouldn't you agree that there's wicked people in this world? Yes. All you got to do is turn on the TV, listen to the radio. There are wicked people in this world. That's a fact. Just as there were wicked people at the time of Jesus, there are wicked people today. But the Lord says that He will keep you safe. He will protect us forever from the wicked. There is not a day, not an hour, not a second in which our Lord Jesus Christ is not protecting us. He said that He would send His warring angels to defend you, to protect you, to camp around you and your household and your possessions. He says, I'm going to protect you. That is a good father's responsibility, to protect his children. A good father protects. A good father defends his children. And we have a perfect Father who's doing the very same thing for us. One of the reasons why we fear, one of the reasons why we shrink back, shrivel back, is because we forget the promises that God has made us. God says that He will not break one of His promises. You can head into any storm, any difficult situation, any challenging situation, if we will remember that God made a promise to defend and to protect us. That's the truth. And that's what Jesus is saying. If you remember the truth, it'll set you free from doubt and fear and trepidation and anxiety. And you will be able to overcome your enemies. You will be able to stand before your foes. You will have victory over Satan and his demonic forces if you remember and not forget the promises of God. And this is a promise. You, Lord, will keep the needy safe and will protect us forever from the wicked. Is there anybody right now in your life that seeks to do you harm? Remember this, that your Father in heaven stands between you and that individual, ready to defend, ready to protect you. In Psalm 32:7 it says this, You are my hiding place. You will protect me from trouble and surround me with songs of deliverance. How beautiful is that promise? Listen to it again. You are my hiding place. In other words, God, you are a sanctuary. You're a safe place for me. You will protect me from trouble and surround me with songs of deliverance. In other words, God's going to sing songs of deliverance to His children. Parents out there, have you ever sung a song to your son or daughter to put them to sleep, to comfort them, to calm them? God says that He's going to sing you some songs of deliverance, to reassure you that He's present, to reassure you that He's not abandoned you nor forsaken you, that He's right there by your side. A champion, ready to defend, to protect. A mighty fortress is our God, a bulwark never failing, meaning a strong rampart, a strong tower, a fortress is our God. I think one of the reasons why we often become afraid and we don't step out and we don't move forward is because we forget that the Father in heaven is a safe haven. That He's a strong tower, that you can lean on Him when you have no more strength. You can draw strength from Him. You can receive deliverance from Him if you'll only depend on Him. Depend on Him. He says He's going to defend, He's going to protect, and He's also going to deliver. In Psalm 3:8, it says, "From the Lord comes deliverance. May your blessing be on your people." From the Lord comes deliverance. What do you need to be delivered from today? Impure thoughts? Sexual immorality? Drunkenness? Maybe for you young people, you're disrespecting your parents. Do you need to be delivered from a show of disrespect or contempt for your parents' leadership and authority in the home? Do you need to be delivered from a sour attitude? From maybe selfishness and greed? Envy, lust, licentiousness? The list goes on and on and on. What do you need to be delivered from today? Everybody has something that they need to be delivered from. Maybe it's pornography. Maybe you need to be delivered from that. Maybe from drugs or alcohol. Maybe it's from spending too much time in front of the TV. You know, the TV can become a god. Those cell phones can become a god when they take priority over your relationship with God and with the relationship of those that God has placed in your life. Don't ever think that a cell phone cannot become a god. Don't ever think that a TV or money can't become a god, because it surely can when it becomes the priority in your life. When you damage relationships because of that material possession, when it causes friction, when it causes bitterness and envy and divide and strife within the home, that's a god. You either get it under control or you get rid of it. Because if you don't get rid of it, it's going to burn your house down. It's going to ruin relationships with those people that God calls you to love. Do you value your material possessions more so than your relationships with those people that God has put in your life? That, whatever it is an object. It has become an idol. It has become an object of worship. You see, we think of Satan as just cruising around in a little red outfit with a pitchfork, pointed horns on his head and a pointy tail. That's how we picture Satan. We don't realize that he enters into our home through various different avenues. Through the radio, through the TV, through our cell phones, through people. There's some people, frankly, that are not allowed in my home because of the evil that they brought in the past, and they weren't willing to get rid of it. They weren't willing to set it aside. They weren't willing to come into my home and do me good and not harm. To come into my home and bring peace and not strife. I'm responsible for the welfare and the care of all who come into my home. And therefore no evil, vile, wicked person is allowed in my home. That's a safe haven, a sanctuary for God's people to reside. Whoever comes into my home, they can be sure of a number of things. They're going to be safe. They're going to be cared for. They're going to be protected. They're going to be loved. They're going to find peace. They're going to find joy. They're going to find contentment in my home. That home that God has given me is a sanctuary. And all who wish to enter it will find peace and rest and joy. They will be taken care of. Because I have taken every action to defend and protect and deliver as my God has called me to, as the head of my household, as a spiritual leader in my home. I have a responsibility for whomever comes in my home to take care of them. And if there's anything in my home that would bring strife or division, that would pit one person against another and create pandemonium and animosity, I need to get rid of that, whatever it is. I need to stand for what is right and for what is good and for what is just. At whatever cost. What did it cost Jesus to protect and to defend us? His life. What are you willing to give up to protect your family members, your loved ones? What are you willing to do? What great length are you willing to go to shield those that God has given you? In Psalm 54:7 it says, "You have delivered me from all my troubles, and my eyes have looked in triumph on my foes." Listen to this. Again, you have delivered me from some of my troubles? No. Listen to what the psalmist says. You have delivered me from all my troubles, and my eyes have looked in triumph on my foes. The Scripture says that your enemy will come at you from one direction, and they will scatter in many, because of He who sits at the right hand of God the Father. We have a champion who's on our side, who is committed to defend, protect, and to deliver us. Not from some troubles, but from all troubles. For we know that all things work for the good of those who love the Lord, who have been called according to His purpose. All things. God will work for His glory and our good. He's going to deliver you from all trouble. If you will not throw in the towel. One of the reasons why we're not delivered from some troubles is not because God didn't do everything He could. It's because we chose to quit on God. You see, the psalmist didn't quit on God. David refused to quit on his Father in heaven. And that's why he can say here, "You have delivered me from all my troubles. Because I trusted in you. I had faith in you. I believed in you." See, all God needs us to do is to not quit on Him. Don't give up. Don't give in. Don't give out. And you will see deliverance. You will see victory and triumph over your enemies. Our job is to keep moving forward. What did Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego say? "O King Nebuchadnezzar, even if our Father in heaven doesn't come and protect us, save us, we still will not bow down to your graven image. We're still going to remain obedient to our Father in heaven no matter what. We are not going to compromise our position no matter what." You see, they believed and they knew that their God could deliver them if He so chose to do so. That was the faith that they had. They were not willing to give up that faith. They were not willing to compromise. They were holding on to what they knew was true. The truth will set you free, and it set them free. You see, Daniel was unwilling to compromise, even though he knew that he was going to be thrown into the lion's den for praying openly. He refused to bow down to the king's edict. He held his ground. Even though he knew he was going into harm's way, he was not willing to compromise his faith, his belief. And again, God delivered him. Again, God showed up and defended, protected, and delivered. And God will do the same for you and for me if we will not compromise, if we will not forget that obedience to God is love for God. So how is Jesus going to accomplish this? How is He going to deliver us? How is it that He's going to set us free? In Mark 14, verse 61 through 62, it says this: "Again the high priest was questioning Him and saying to Him, 'Are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed One?' And Jesus said, 'I am. And you shall see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of power and coming with the clouds of heaven.'" With Jesus, there comes power. That's what those soldiers, those Roman soldiers, those priests who came to arrest Jesus saw. They saw His power. I'll share a quick story with you. I was living in an apartment complex, and I was at the pool. I'm just getting some sun, and I saw this man get up and stomp across the pool area there towards a lady, and I see him screaming at her and pointing his finger, and I had my headphones on at that time, and I just saw it. It happened briefly, and I thought, wow, that's really strange. So I took my headset off, and about the time I got my headset off, he walks back to his chair. So I put my headset back on and laid back down there, and all of a sudden I see him get back up and go storming across the pool area there towards that lady again and start shaking his fist at her, and she's there obviously afraid and scared, and nobody's doing anything. Everybody's just standing back watching. And the Lord said, "Get up and defend and protect and deliver as I have done for you." So I stood up and I yelled across the pool and I said, "Hey, stop what you're doing." I was maybe I weighed about $125, 125 pounds at the time. This was a grown man in his late 40s, early 50s. Outweighed me 2-to-1. I knew how big my God was. He turns to me, and I can't say what he said. There were a number of choice words he used. Put his fist together and started snorting, stomping across the pool, coming straight for me. And I looked down, and when my little slippers there, and I'm thinking, this is going to be good. It's going to get real good, real interesting here, real quick. I don't know that I know how to fight in these little rubber little flip-flops. But, Lord, I guess somehow you're going to deliver me. So I took them off and stood there barefooted in my swimming trunks, waiting for this guy to come around. He got just outside of my reach, and he stopped cold in his tracks. Stopped cold in his tracks. And didn't say a word. Nothing. But he just looked at me. Here was a man that was ready to tear me from limb to limb. He's coming mean, and he's angry, and he's bitter, and he's stomping and snarling. How dare this young little punk tell me what I can and cannot do? And all of a sudden he stops in his tracks, and he stands there, and fear grips him. I haven't done anything. I'm just standing there. I haven't done anything. I didn't make any ugly faces. I wasn't waving my arms in the air. I wasn't doing anything. I was just standing there. And he stops cold in his track, and this fear just comes over him. This terrible dread gripped him. And he doesn't say anything, and he doesn't do anything. He looks just empty. As if he's not even looking at me. And I'm thinking, this is really weird. I don't know, what am I supposed to do? I didn't do anything. I just stood there just looking at him. Just kind of taken back at everything that was happening. Something I couldn't explain. How did he go from wanting to tear me apart all of a sudden to now shaking in his flip-flops? And then when his buddy realized something wasn't right and came around the pool and got him by the arm and walked him away. He never said a word. What I wish I'd done at that time, what I wish I'd have done at that moment, look behind me. You see, he didn't see me. He saw my King. He saw my God. He saw the angel of the Lord with his spirit drawn. That's who he saw. I did what was right. Defend, protect, deliver. I stood up against my enemy, and God delivered me. God set me free. You see, if you don't sacrifice for what you want will be a sacrifice. What you want will be sacrificed. I don't know what that man would have done to that lady if I wasn't willing to make a sacrifice. I don't know what he had done. Maybe he'd have hit her at that point in time. He was so mad. You see, courage follows when faith leads. Courage follows when faith leads. I was led by faith, and courage followed. Choices will reveal either a person's faith or their fear. Your choices will either reveal your faith or your fear. What choices are you making today? Are you making choices based on fear or based on faith? Jesus knew how big His God was. We know how big our God is. We know that Jesus came to defend, to protect, and to deliver, and He's going to do that by the power of His might. All I have to do is not quit, to not give up, and to not give in to the enemy forces that surround me. In the workplace, on the playground, in the classroom, wherever there are people that are seeking to do you harm, seeking to do you woe, don't run. Stand and witness a miracle. You ready to do that today? You ready to stand, to protect, to defend, to deliver? Are you ready to watch your heavenly King, your heavenly Father, step between you and your enemy? I can tell you what an amazing God we serve. I wouldn't trade that moment that I had at that pool for anything. I learned so much about how great and mighty my God is. You need to have an experience like that, something like that, where God reveals His power. But I can tell you this much: had I continued to ignore what was going on around me, and I continued to be just concerned about myself and lay there and get some sun, get a nice suntan, if I was only concerned about me, myself, I would not have seen that miracle. God wants us to be a part of that miracle. And our job is to get up. Our job is to continue moving forward. Our job is not to quit on God. If you don't quit on God today, a miracle awaits you. Let's bow our heads.